Welcome to the Real Dad Show. Thank you for joining me. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about cigar and humidor maintenance and storage. Before we do that, as you can see, I'm wearing my brother's Boxing Club t-shirt again. This is one of the other t-shirts. So if you're in Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, California, stop by Double Punch's Boxing Club, ask for Richard. Tell him his little brother Jimmy sent you. He'll be really surprised. Also, just as a quick thing, I'm sure all of you know that within the last couple of weeks, Sonoma County in Northern California was hit very badly with some fires. This is the second time historically that we've had these giant fires. And you know, I'm from Sonoma County. My hometown of Hillsburg was completely evacuated. So was the towns of Santa Rosa, some areas of Santa Rosa, Windsor, Larkville, and all those areas. So I'd love to say a great big shout out and thank you to all the firefighters, law enforcement, first responders that had this fire contained very quickly. I know a lot of people were out of their homes for a week, but thanks to these amazing real life superheroes, that fire was contained. Nobody's houses were lost in these major in these smaller areas, and they just did an amazing job. We've had firefighters come as far as Washington, Texas, Idaho, Nevada. It's just amazing how much support was poured into Sonoma County. So guys, we really appreciate it. First responders, you're the real heroes. Thank you so much. Now, if you would also like me to promote your business or your product, let me know in the comment section below or send me an instant message and we'll see if we can work something out. Really could use the sponsors. And speaking of sponsors, if you haven't already, hit the subscription button, like these videos, share these videos, and hit the notification button so you know every time I promote or put out a new video. So let's go over to the bar where I have my humidor set up and we can get right back down to business. Okay, this is my garage bar. You see over here, I have my glass top humidor. It's a Thompson. I've had it for about roughly a little over 10 years. It's worked great for me, keeps my cigars very fresh. Pretty much low maintenance. All you have to do is just make sure that the moisture levels are proper. As you can see in the front, it has a little moisture gauge. Tells you what the humidity level is in it. I also don't always rely on that. I have one inside and I also have an electric one. So I like to make sure the moisture levels are perfect. Otherwise my cigars are gonna dry out and nobody wants that. They'll start falling apart. It's messy. So some of the things that you're gonna need to season your humidor and some of the things that you're going to need to maintain the moisture levels is humidity. Humidity is the important thing. How do you do that? Well, you can use some of these little humidifiers that have the little foam sponge inside. You use distilled water. Don't use regular water from your tap. Those minerals, not a good idea. Distilled water is what you want to do. You would stick this into a little pan full of water. For me, it's easier to actually open it, get the sponge out, let it soak in there, then put it back in, and then put it in the humidifier. At first, I was just filling it through the top, through these little holes, and water spilt everywhere. The sponge didn't get completely moisturized, and I was having to refill it all the time. So, smart thing to do, well, at least it's my preference, is take the sponge out, soak it in the distilled water, and then once you know it is nice and full, put it back in here, wipe off all the extra moisture, stick it in the humidifier or the humidor, close it, you're good to go. One of the other things you can also use is these Bovita packs. I just found out about these. I love these. These are great. Easiest thing in the world to use. They come out of the box ready to use. You don't have to open it, punch holes in it. You don't have to do anything. Take it out of the package, stick it in your humidifier, and it's ready to go. Slowly it'll release moisture out of the pack, and if there's too much moisture in your humidifier, it will draw that moisture into itself. So these are really great. I only need one because that's all I ordered, so I use this plus the little spongies. But these are great. If you notice that after about 2 months it's hard and stiff, that means that all the moisture is drawn out of it, and you can either throw it away and put a new one in, or you can recharge these. Recharging, we'll put that in a future video, so I'll teach you how to recharge these. So before we get any further, I'm going to talk about seasoning your humidifier, or humidor, sorry, your humidor. You can't just buy a new humidor and stick it full of cigars and put one of these little discs in it. It won't work because it's still going to draw all the moisture into the wood. So before you put your cigars into your brand new humidor, or if you've had your humidor being stored for a while with no cigars in it, or whatever the case be, you have to recharge it. You have to season it. So we're going to talk about that first. Okay. Before we get into the humidor, we have to move Master Yoda. So Master Yoda, we're going to move him out of the way back here so we have more room to work into the humidor. My other stuff I have back here is my tobacco for my cigars, or not my cigars, for my pipe. I also love pipes. That's another video we'll talk about later. So let's get a close-up of the humidor. So as you can see, here's my little gauge that's in the front built into the humidor. And you only want to open this when you're going to take a cigar out or refill the humidifiers. Every time you open it, you're going to lose moisture, and that's, like I said before, it's not good. Keep the lid closed, tightly closed as possible. Usually I keep it locked, but when we moved into this house, I lost the key. So I don't know where the key is at, so I don't keep it locked anymore. Nobody comes in my garage anyway. So let's open this up. Now if you look, here's my little humidifier gizmo thingy. You can see it's just a little bit past the red, so I have a little bit too much moisture, but as long as it's within the red, you want it more than this. That tells you 70 degrees or 70% is proper. That's the ideal. Now, as you see on the top, I have some newer cigars. They're still in their plastic little tubes. When you have different types of cigars, flavoring, you want to make sure that you keep them separately so that they don't absorb some of the flavors from the other ones and it mixes. You want a Sancho Panza to taste like a Sancho Panza. You want a cow to taste like a cow. You don't want to spend a lot of money on a Cohiba and have it taste like a cheap cigar. So on the bottom half, you'll see I have my better cigars. I have a Macanudo. I'm not a big fan, but I have my Montecristos, I have my Cohibas in here, and I have my beloved cow with torpedoes. And you can see this cow torpedo was a little dry. It's starting to flake, so I had to do some emergency repairs. So what you need to do is you would get the sponge, you dip it in the water, make sure it's really good, but you don't want water dripping everywhere. It's just not messy and not necessary. You would take the wet sponge, you would wipe down all the walls, the bottom of the humidor. If you don't have a glass top like I do, it would be on the top. If you do have a glass top, you would just do the edges, make sure everything is nice and moist. If you have a rack, you would do the rack also. But you want to make sure all the wood is nice and moist. You don't want it so wet that you've got water pulling on the bottom, but you want to make sure that the walls and all the wood is nicely soaked in. After that, take your sponge out. You would get a small cup of distilled water, put it inside the humidor, and then close the top. Leave it closed for about 2 days, maybe 3, give or take a little bit. Watch your humidifier gauge, make sure it's in the right humidity level. then you would take the top, open it, take the cup out. You'd put your humidifiers in. Then it's safe to put your cigars in. You want to put any that are open like this at the bottom, any of the drier ones, put at the bottom so that they would absorb the moisture. Then you'd put the rack on, put your other ones on top, however you want to arrange it. I like mine like this, but there's no real rule on how to stack your cigars. So it's up to you. Some people like to have a little space in between so that the moisture can get in between. A good thing to do is if you have a bunch of the same type of cigar, you would want to stack those together and not mix them up so that, again, they absorb the moistures from each other. It'll make a richer tasting cigar. So that's how you do that. Okay, so how do you fill these? We talked about that earlier. Like this sponge, you open it up, pull the sponge out, you would dip it in, around, let it sit there for a little bit. I would leave it there for about 2 minutes. Then you take it out, put it back in, close the top, stick it in your humidor, close the door right away. Now, one thing I noticed that when I told you earlier I was having a problem, I had to do some quick maintenance on it, is I noticed that my sponges were falling apart. Well, because I pull them out, like I said, I pull them out and pour them in there, and I guess they started to crumble and get messed up. So rather than buying a new one, because these could cost anywhere between $5 and $15, $20 depending on what brand and where you buy them from, I decided to go down to Walmart and buy floral sponge. But you have to make sure you get wet foam, not the dry, wet foam. Then, as you can see here with this one, I just matched up a spade, cut it out, made it fit. Good as new. This one right here was cut from this block. Works awesomely. It's the same exact stuff that comes in these when you buy them brand new. Save money, do it this way. And then again, always use distilled water. Last thing, what I want to talk about is cigars. Where do you get cigars? You have a nice brand new humidor, you need something to put it in. You don't want to go down to the liquor store or the smoke shop and buy a bunch of cheap cigars and put them in your nice humidor. Well, you need some good cigars. Where do you go? Here's a place that my wife was wonderful enough to do, surprise me with on Father's Day. Cigars International. You can go to cigarsinternational.com, or I think it's ciinternational.com, and they're always having sales. Great brand name cigars like Cohiba, Montecristo, Macanudo, which isn't one of my favorites. Sancho Panza is one of my favorites. Romeo and Juliet, Cows, all of those are in here, and they're all very well discounted. Very reputable company. They've been around very long time. Their people know what they're doing. So what you can do is you can go there and order, or in your newspaper, they have these little things like this. You get 8 cigars for $10. It's only good for new customers, but you just go to the site, put in this promo code, and you can get 10 cigars. For $5 more, you can get a little travel humidor, and it's this one here. This one came with my cigars. It's a great little humidor. It's really well built. It holds about 5-6 cigars. It comes with a little humidor or Humicare pack. Dip this in the distilled water, shake off all the excess, stick it in there, and it also has a little built-in one right there. This is great. Take this when I go to Las Vegas, when we went to Hawaii. Great to store my cigars. We're going on a cruise, take your cigars with you. If you're in international waters, buy some real Cuban cigars. I got a couple when we went to the Bahamas, and they are amazing. Completely different than any Cohiba that you would buy in the States, unless you're buying an illegal one. And remember, if you're going down to the smoke shop and they've got Cuban Cohibas there for $15, they're fake. Trust me, they're fake. So, again, that's just my little spiel on cigars. A lot of you know I love cigars. So let's go back to the bench and we'll finish up this video. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Not so hard once you know what you're doing. And like I said, if I learn something new, I want to pass it on to you. That way you don't have to spend lots of money, find a little DIY, hey, share it with your friends. That's the whole point of these videos. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate your loyalty. Keep spreading my videos, keep liking my videos, notification button. And before I go, how did you like the intro? Brand new intro. This is the second video to use it. The first one was my little blog on turning 50. My beautiful wife made that for me. I like it. I've had some good feedback, but tell me the feedback you have. Put it in the comments below. Also in the comments below, I'll put a link to all the different products that you've seen today, where you can go to find them, to Cigars International, Amazon, and some of the other places like Walmart. So, thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. Remember, anybody can be a father, but it takes a special person to be a dad. God bless.